Good evening, everyone, all of you listening at home and away. Welcome to episode 16 of the Frame by Frame podcast, your ultimate podcast for all things UX and UI. This is our second episode of the year, but our first episode in terms of having our first special guest of the year. You may or may not already know of him. Both Zach and I know him from being connected on LinkedIn. But our special guest is David Knight. So, David, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time out to join us. It's a great privilege for us to have you here with us tonight.
I'm really pleased you included me. I'm really touched you did, and it's really good to be part of it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's really good that you wanted to be part of it. For all of you out there who may not know David, he's a fellow Career Foundry alumni. He has a bachelor's degree in drawing and arts, and he's currently working as a freelance illustrator. He has years of experience in that, but is very much open to gainful employment and full-time work. Some of his key skills, just to name a handful of them. User research, of course, like a lot of us in this industry, competitor analysis, user interviews, data analysis, along with obviously qualitative and quantitative research methods, user flows and user journeys, including user mapping or journey mapping, wireframing, prototyping, usability testing, style guides, design systems, iconography, infographics, 3D mockups, of course, illustration, and basic HTML and CSS. And basic is still pretty good. I used to code in HTML and CSS many years ago when I was designing websites and graphics. And like a lot of us skilled UX and UI designers, the main tools of his trade are Figma, Adobe Creative Suite, Affinity Designer, and other tools as well. I'm sure he would be familiar with the ever popular Photoshop. So again, I'm sure, I'm sure you'd all join us in welcoming him to the show. But before we get on to a couple of topics that we would like to broach regarding some new developments in UX design and a certain key products with extremely developed and acute AI. We would just like to get David.
Can I guess what that is? Is it the Rabbit R1?
It is. It is the Rabbit R1.
Sorry.
Yes, and we wanted to broach that to you, but we wanted to keep it a secret until we were doing the episode. So, no, it's absolutely fine. I mean, this episode won't go out for about just under a week anyway.
Okay.
So I kept it under wraps.
I was super excited, and I had to bring it up today.
Yeah, Zach was pretty forthright in his demand that we bring it up and broach it to you, David. So we thought, okay, we'll relent. We'll let Zach have his.
I watched actually they put out a product launch video, didn't they? I had a good look at that the other day.
Yeah, on Wednesday when it released, I saw the release.
What
stream or whatever, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was watching it, and I was like, "No way!" And then I was super excited about it that night, and then I forgot about it. I had so much to do at work, and it wasn't until I was talking to our backend developer, and he's like, "Oh, have you heard about the Rabbit?" I'm like, "I know the name. Why do I know that name?" And then he sent me a link, and I looked at it, and I literally left my chair, and I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what it is." And then I went to their website, and I was reading all about it. And
yeah, so you're pretty excited about it.
Absolutely. I mean, you have talked to me enough to know how full my days get.
Yeah, sure.
And so I see the absolute use for it.
Yeah.
Like, just as an example, I was on a run the other day, and somebody canceled an appointment, and I don't use my normal calendar app for a lot of things. I use a separate app. It's called Timo, and it's more for ADHD people, which is right up my alley because I have 6 different calendars. And this thing, my phone can't access that app and cancel it or tell the rest of the party that I'm canceling the entire meeting because the one person I needed there. Yeah.
And I'll just do that for you.
Yeah, and so I'm in the middle of
Since
my
he's a
run.
workaholic, David, and
Yeah.
since he's a workaholic, he needs 6 calendars minimum.
Yeah. I know he is. I know
Well,
he is. I know.
you know, I'm in the middle of a run, and then Siri's reading me this message, and I was like,
Actually, in fact, a couple of the times I've talked to Zach, I sort of said to him, how do you, how are you so productive? How are you writing these articles on Medium and, building a prototype and changing a design system and thinking about creating it as an exploded design system, and I was just thinking, how do you do that? And he kind of, I can't remember what he said now, but I think he talked about ADHD and how he kind of used it to his benefit. So yeah, I don't know how he's definitely a workaholic, definitely.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, actually, I think he's instead of ADHD, I think it should be AIHD. Zach is basically Rabbit version 10.
Oh yeah.
yeah, that thing will solve a lot of problems. So I decided I'll test one out,
Okay,
and
that's
Yeah,
interesting. That's
mine.
interesting because my reaction to it was I guess it's for really really busy people because I was talking to Cross about this kind of in a dialogue on LinkedIn about
Yeah, yeah.
the ritual of doing things. So I kind of, if I'm going to look for something, I quite like to be able to search for it and, compare things and see what I'm getting and, or read maps. Actually, I'd like to have a physical map in my hand.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
Stuff
I
like
grew
that.
up
But
doing,
yeah,
I grew
yeah.
up doing
Well, I still
fly-ins.
use A to Z. When I drive, I still use A to Z sometimes. I mean, you have to be careful because some roads aren't there anymore. But for me, just because you mentioned it, for me, the one benefit of these old A to Z atlases or maps is you don't have to worry about a battery going wrong. You don't have to worry about whether it can turn on or turn off. You just need a little bit of map reading skills and a little bit of common sense, really. And
Did,
this is actually where this also contributes to the dynamic that the three of us have here at the Frame by Frame, is because Zach is Zach is more receptive to AI, whereas I'm a bit more of a luddite. I'm more a
mm,
skeptic with AI. I'm a lot more old fashioned, doing things manually. I think Will is kind of middle
yeah,
of the fence in the sense that
he sees
he
both
doesn't really
sides.
have. Yeah, he's both sides.
Oh,
So
I definitely see both sides of AI, but
You're kind
yeah,
of
but yeah, but
I'm
well,
putting
you're the
yeah,
optimist. So,
but you're more Prozac. No, actually, that sounded wrong. You're more Prozac.
yeah.
No,
No, I've
I
heard
mean
that my
you're
whole
more.
life. I got all the Zach jokes, and I grew up with Legos,
Yeah.
so Zach, Lego
Well,
Maniac. Um,
that wasn't intended. But now that you've
no,
mentioned
but
that, I'm going up until season 2. I'm going to try and make one Zach joke in every episode now because you mentioned that, Zach.
don't make
Sorry, but
don't
it's.
cross me.
I bet he's heard them all anyway. So
Yeah. We don't want to get cross purposes, do we? Um, yeah,
do,
No,
but no, I mean, but the
I'm
thing is, it's like
definitely open to
we all
AI.
see it. We all see the both sides. But like I
Yeah,
said, I'm just more a bit. I don't want to say fearful, but I'm just a bit more skeptical. And and just to add, I don't think it's necessarily just AI by itself. I think it depends on the intention people use it for.
yeah, I'm kind of depends. It depends what frame of mind I'm in. If I'm feeling fearful, then AI is kind of the biggest, scariest thing in the world. And then if I'm feeling positive, which varies a lot, I think it's amazing and it's really useful. But like you say, it's kind of what it's used for, isn't it? So
I'd compare it to any
Yeah,
technology. I mean, we had phones for a reason. They're supposed to be productivity devices, and it turned
mm,
into a
yeah.
TikTok brainwash device. So it depends on which side. Because I mean, I do watch reels on my phone. Like, I love Tik or LinkedIn, and Instagram's great just because I do a lot
Mm.
of photography and stuff. And
Do, do
it's a
you do you put that photography anywhere? Have you sort of
oh yeah, yeah,
is it
it's all
online?
on
Is it?
Instagram. Yeah,
Oh, is it? What's your Instagram account?
Oz the Whiz of.
Ah, okay. Oh, it's the whistle. Cool.
And yeah, so I do a lot of photography. Sometimes I'll put designs or drawings or paintings or just little sketches if I like a sketch I did.
Mm.
But yeah, so the technology existed. It ruined people's brains. Our attention span is like 2.5 seconds now, I
Yeah, yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Well, that's mainly TikTok. You see, this is one thing I've always been critical of when it comes to social media. Sorry, just to interject here is I see it now. You know, we're in an era where everyone is rushing. The 24 hours a day isn't enough for people out there. But I think as someone who's not had social media since 2014, I would say that because I've not seen TikTok or anything like that, I actually have, I would say, more patience in terms of, you know, I'm more than happy to spend longer thinking about something than just wanting a quick conclusion. But then I was always like that, even as a child. I was always thinking and questioning, and I did study philosophy,
But
so
I mean,
that's also
even with this
something.
AI, like ChatGPT can be used on both sides. You can be lazy and never write a thing in your life, or you
Yeah.
can do what I do and I will write pages.
Like collaborative articles.
Yeah, thanks, LinkedIn. Um, I'll be a top voice in 20 minutes if you give me ChatGPT. No, but like you could do what I do, where when I write a Medium article, I'll put 2 to 3 pages down, and then I'll type it up, throw it into ChatGPT, and tell it to edit it because I don't have an editor, and I know sometimes my grammar is
Yeah.
crap.
Okay. Yeah.
And
What's what?
sometimes it changes stuff, and you'll read it and be like, "That's not the wording I used, but I'm good with that. It sounds good. It
Mhm.
sounds better than what I put." So it is. It's your little editor in chief when you need it. But you have the other side where people are like, "I'm not reading that book." And then, hey, Chat GPT, give me a summary of this. Dude, do you know what you're missing when you read a book? Like, if you don't read a
Mm,
book, you miss everything because language is everything. And so
yeah,
if you never read a book, anybody can give you a summary or like just tell you, what the green light and Great Gatsby means. For Christ's sakes, like
Mhm.
yeah.
it doesn't
And
matter.
actually, since you brought up the subject of books, David, I know obviously
Mm.
in pre-recording and also in the intermission that you've written a few books.
No,
So
no,
could you
no,
tell us?
no. I haven't written a few books. I wrote a novel, which
You
which I,
wrote a novel, but you did some
oh
children's
yeah,
books where
children's
you were
books.
illustrating. Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about them, maybe even if they're available, and how that because I think this segues really nicely into your background regarding your artistic flair and creative expressions. So could you maybe perhaps relate how doing that novel and contributing or making these children's books
Mm.
was perhaps a first sign of your creativity, or how your first inclination for the creative arts inspired you to write a novel?
Okay, well, actually, I wrote the novel because it was really a cathartic exercise, to try and make sense of some things that had happened in my life, which I won't go into in too much detail. It was really just an emotional kind of outburst, and it took me probably 2 or 3 years to write, and it was a really good experience. And it's actually quite hard to write a novel. A lot of people try, but
Mm,
they don't
yeah,
actually finish them.
it is very difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I did creative classes in. Sorry to interrupt. I was just saying
mm,
when I was doing English language and literature, I did extra creative classes, and you learn the fundamentals, the essence of novel writing, even script writing, and it is very very difficult. Definitely.
yeah, but it was a great process, and I went through the process of sending it out to publishers. So back then, I was actually sending out, the physical scripts. So I had to send out these
Yeah.
huge envelopes, and you'd kind of wait for them to come back, and hope that someone would, a reader would read it and want to go further with it, but it didn't happen. But it was really, I suppose, when I do anything, I'm always open-minded about what it's for, and it's not always apparent why you do things. I mean, I even kind of approach things like this, meeting up with you guys, and we appear to be kind of sitting down and doing a podcast, but other things often happen, and other threads come out, and if you know what I mean. So I've always try and keep an
Yeah.
open mind about why I do
Everything is
things.
forever changing.
Yeah. Um, So yeah, I kind of did that as a cathartic exercise, as I say, and then I eventually ended up going to college, and I sort of found myself leaning towards children's book illustration. In fact, it's something that's been dear to me for a long time, and I like writing. And so at college, I wrote a couple of stories and created the books. Actually made the physical dummy books, which was great. And I used one in my degree for my degree exhibition, and tried to get that published. I didn't get that published, and then I wrote a book with my partner in response to some difficulty we were having. We both got diagnosed with PTSD, and at the time when it was happening to us, we didn't understand what was happening to us. And then a couple of years later, we got a diagnosis, and it kind of was like a light going on. And we wrote a children's story about it, and we got that published with a small publisher. That was back in 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, go on.
Sorry, David, just to interject. I just want to ask because when it comes to creativity, this is a very interesting branch of psychology. For example, if you look at some of the best people in their field, like Jimi Hendrix or Jaco Pastorius or Karen Carpenter from the Carpenters, or anyone who's not, I won't say a savant, but someone who's really of a virtuoso level in the creative field. Be it music, drawing, and what have you, there does seem to be a correlation that people who perhaps suffer with mental illness, be it PTSD, BPD, or bipolar, that it's kind of part and parcel of their extreme creativity. Would you say that, based on your experience, which I'm sorry to hear that that you went through that, because I've known of people who've had PTSD, and it's really something that is hard to understand unless you're suffering with it. But would you say that when you...
It's a very
No,
interesting...
sorry, David.
It's a very interesting condition, actually. We explored it thoroughly. We found out some really interesting things about our minds, and what we were putting into our minds, and I guess it just gave me a different toolkit. And there's a very strange therapy called EMDR, which is called, I think it's eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. It's even the therapist I saw, she said it was like witchery, because what it does is it's almost like it's a bit like doing art therapy in a way, because you get so involved in what you're doing, you bypass your intellect, and you kind of give up sort of the things that are stuck in your mind.
Yeah, I
Because
was about to say, actually, David, sorry again, but I was about to say that I kind of theorized that when someone who is troubled with mental illness, when it affects their day-to-day living and their interactions with people, that perhaps one of the... Again, this is just a theory I have. I'm no psychologist or anything like that, but I like to think about really deep things. Not what someone had for breakfast, for example. Oh, I had Cocoa Pops instead of cornflakes. Well, that's not interesting for me, but good for you. But something like this really, really gets me intrigued. So, is it possible that perhaps that when someone is so good in a creative field, because they've got an affliction with a mental health problem like PTSD, BPD, is it that because that's a place where there are no rules for them? It is where, or in your case, where it was a place where you could just be free and open and not worry about confines of, for example, what rules should I follow here? Is that something that could perhaps explain that?
well, I suppose I can only talk about myself, really. To be honest with you, I mean, I think I suppose if you make work, perhaps those sorts of experiences are going to come through in the work in some way. Maybe, I don't know. But to be perfectly honest with you, when it first started to, we first started to have symptoms. Um, I was just really frightened all the time. That was my experience, and my partner was even worse. She wasn't able to leave the house for probably 2 years. It was really, and we just didn't know what was going on. And this is when I was at college actually, and I didn't really understand, because rationally everything was fine. I could see everything was fine, and there was nothing to be frightened of. And but it just never went away, and it was. I think what happens is, sorry, I'm digressing a bit, is, as I understand it, when you go into fight or flight, you release enormous amounts of energy, and if you don't process the energy,
I've heard that. Yeah.
yeah, you do. You end up storing it in your body, and you don't process it properly. So, what happens is it just suddenly turns up. You get triggered by something. It could be anything, and you end up re-experiencing the fear again. And it's bizarre. And it was, we just withdrew, and we kind of looked after each other for a few years, and we just had to try and figure
Mm.
out. I don't say this to elicit any sympathy. It's just what happened. I just We just had to find a way kind of to move forward. So I tried to design, my life around that. So I started to make art. It was something I knew I could do, and it didn't cause me any
Yeah.
problems. That's really what I was doing.
Yeah.
I don't think I really
Well,
answered your
first of
question,
all,
but
it's yeah, no, I just want to say, first of all, what you've been through, and the fact that you're talking about it is very commendable. And we know that there are people out there who will either currently understand what it's like to have PTSD, for example, or have had it in the past. So um I don't think anyone this stigma of, if someone posts something that it's a sob story or it's to elicit sympathy, I think it's actually better to be provided, obviously, like yourself, you're comfortable talking about this, and it's really commendable. And we do thank you for
well,
for
I was kind of I
for
was
the trust in this.
I was
Yeah.
I was kind of determined actually to talk about it, because I didn't know if I was going to. Because I just wasn't sure, so I'm really glad I brought it up, and you kind of gave me a good way in as well, so that was good.
Yeah, exactly. And as I was saying, there'll be people out there who can really relate to it. And I think it's important to have this kind of thing in the open. I don't mean as in everyone should just reveal their story. I mean open as in there shouldn't be any fear of, oh, is this to elicit sympathy? Because it is part of your background. It's something that's not wrong. It's not something
Mm.
that anyone who goes through this should be ashamed of. I mean, it has contributed to your creativity. You've embarked on UX design.
Well,
Perhaps if you hadn't gone through what you went through, you might not have even embarked on UX design. So I think it's actually really interesting, and it's really part of a compelling story, which everyone has,
I think I
in
think
my humble opinion. So no, I think it's great that you're able to be open and talk about it, and I think it will actually help. It could help other people out there. And I just want to say, if you are suffering, or you do struggle with PTSD, just remember you're not alone, and it is nothing to feel ashamed about. And work through it and just look after yourself. Of course, as we always say, mainly for design, we're always available. But I'm sure if it was okay with you, David, if one of our listeners gets in touch with us and says, "Hey, it really resonated with me because I went through a similar process," would it be okay for someone like to get in touch with you about that?
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I love talking to people, so
Yeah,
absolutely.
perfect. Yeah,
Um,
perfect. Thank you very much. So for all of you out there, and the few, perhaps some of you or a few of you can relate to David, please feel free to. You can get in touch with us, with me, Cross Preston, or Zach Oleski, or even David Knight directly, and just message him. And Yeah, this is why we really love having guests, because we know that not one story is the same. Even if you might have a same degree as someone as another guest in the future, but the way you got that degree or the journey is never going to be the same.
And I was going to say too that UX has really helped me. I mean, it's just doing the course changed my outlook so much so quickly, because I guess it's
Mm.
all about other people, isn't it? And connecting
Yeah,
with other
especially
people. And
exactly. I mean, user research. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was saying that if you're a UX researcher, or obviously you're doing UX research as part of a UX designer's to-do list, I always think it's important not to judge or impose your opinion, but just to ask someone what their thoughts are and write them down, and then obviously see how it compares to other people in terms of what's the way forward here. But
mm,
I think that with user research, it is important to not impose your own opinion, even if you are a UX designer. And actually, at one point, when I was doing one of my projects for my portfolio, I didn't really want to ask other UX or UI designers, because I was afraid that they may see it from a designer's point of view rather than the consumer. I mean, a consumer is not going to know about qualitative and quantitative research methods. They don't care.
mm.
All they care about is just expressing something they would like to see in an app or a product that isn't currently out there, or it's not developed.
Can I ask you guys about creative tension between, I mean, Zach, you're quite established now as a designer, but do you still have that a creative tension between what you want and what you think is good and what you think will work, and actually what people want? Is that still an issue for you, or just do you always listen to the users? And what about you, Cross, when you were doing the course?
I haven't had an invisible friend, I think, ever in my life until design or even art in general. Like, oh man, when I was painting and getting into art school, it was rough because you're your own worst critic. Um, but there's always
That's like how we musicians are.
there's always the I've played music my whole life too. That's the other part, is that you'll write something, people are like, "Oh, that's beautiful," and you're like, "That's trash. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've
So
had that. I think, no, I didn't play that very good. I missed the chord
yeah,
out.
and so
Yeah.
I've dealt with it forever, but now it's in, my best friend is imposter syndrome,
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll do something and it's
Yeah,
like,
that's
there's no
that
way
seems to
that
be
that
really.
worked. Like, there's no way that what I decided was the right thing. How is this possible? There's no way.
yeah.
They're going to find out soon that I just make stuff up. And
And that's still happening, is it?
yeah, why not? Because sometimes, like, I've done so much research, and at the end of it, you're like, this is still my decision, even though I
Mm,
have the research behind it. It's still my decision on why. Like, this is why I think that way. So it is my opinion, and I can't believe it worked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's
yeah.
no way that was my idea. But no, I mean, with art, like, I had to make portfolios, and that became difficult at one point because I was already self-critical in art, because it was a self-expression. Same with music. I was very critical of myself, and then you just wait for that negative response that you're telling yourself. Like, that is what you're waiting to hear, and then when you don't hear it, you're like, okay, I tricked him this time, I guess. Like, I
Mm,
don't know. And you never really get over that, and it's especially true in UX or even UI design, because it's very subjective. Like, no one user is the same. You can do a bunch of research, and it's just like asking people about their opinion on your
Mm,
portfolio. You're gonna get, out of 100 people you interview, you might get similar answers, but you get a lot of different answers too. So
yeah, definitely. That is one downside with user research. I mean, even if we went with, let's say I was designing an app that was just catered to speakers of a certain language, or even if we just for argument's sake, even if we catered it to an app to a particular demographic, like 18 to 24-year olds or 30 to 50-year olds, even people within that demographic are still going to have different opinions, even if they grew up from in the same area. If I did an app and I asked people from my hometown of Leicester, they're all going to say something different, even if they've seen the same surroundings. And that is the thing with user research. But I also think that is part and parcel of the excitement of user research, because you can't really predict what's going to happen. I mean, you can have I think it's important. I mean, for me, because I know you asked me this just before, just after you asked Zach. For me, I think you have to start somewhere. So if I'm coming up with an idea, I think, okay, what are my experiences, good and bad, with a certain product which I'm going to try and compete with? I think, okay, I think this feature would be good, that feature would be good, this feature wouldn't. Um, and with user research, I do open and close questions. So first, I'll get their opinions first, and then I might ask, "Hey, I had this idea. What do you think about what I would say about it?" Just so I can see if it relates. And that's what I love about user research, is the unpredictability and the fact that someone will say something different. I mean, even if one person says something that's different from 10 people you've asked, that one person might actually have a pretty shrewd idea. That might have £1 million idea.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to guide people, but no, it's
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, you don't want to ask leading questions, but I think sometimes it's a good thing, because you ask them the questions first. Just general questions. Hey, what would you like to see in this app? Oh, I understand you use WhatsApp. What things do you like about it? What things do you think could be improved? Which is obviously the most important thing. But I think when you're starting off, I think it's good to try and think about what other people may think, even if you don't ask them about it or you don't bring it up. You can kind of think, "Oh, I didn't think of that," or okay, that confirmed my suspicions of X, Y, Z.
well. What about yourself,
So, but ultimately,
David?
I think with
Have you
user
had
research,
those
sorry, Zach.
experiences? Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to finish off. I was saying that ultimately a UX researcher should be like any good journalist, is they glean the facts, they get the opinions, and they simply put them in a way that people can form their own opinions. And I think you have to take the same approach with user research, is that you have an open mind, you just write down or record what people are saying, and then analyze the results later in the comfort of your own app or own office. And I think that is the most, in fact, I believe that is the most important part of user research. Is the best way to approach user research is just to have an open mind and not think that anything anyone says is wrong, because it may not be. They may know more about it than you.
Yeah, I personally, I don't know. I had a moment during the course, the UX course, when I kind of, I sort of decided I had to kind of, listen to what other people were saying and not just do what I wanted to do, which to be honest was something I used to do in my illustrating to a degree. So it was a good sea change for me. And yeah, it was definitely a turning point for me. And I think when I first started the course, I wasn't that comfortable with the fact that I didn't know anything. I thought I should have the answers, and I felt like I wasn't doing something correctly because I didn't have the answers. And then the more I went into the process, the more I realized it was ambiguous, and actually it was really good that it was ambiguous. And it's actually really good fun when it's
Mm.
ambiguous, isn't it? And you don't know where you're going,
Yeah,
and suddenly it's exciting and it's not
the infinite
described. And
possibilities.
yeah. So, but by the way, you mentioned music. You both musicians, or you both
Yeah,
you both create
For
music?
a
Yeah.
long time, yeah.
Ah, okay. What?
yeah. I'm even thinking of at some point, maybe for season 2, I need to get my hands on a keyboard.
All
But
right.
I'm even thinking of composing a new theme or a theme for the podcast based on the current one, but just adding some flourishes. But yeah, we're
We're gonna
both
use
musicians.
the Law and Order theme song.
What? What? So,
Yeah.
so you're a keyboard player, right? And Zach, what?
No,
Oh, go
no,
on.
no. I'm not a keyboard player. I will use an online keyboard just to do
Okay.
some chords,
Okay.
to get a basic riff. I mean, I'm no keyboard player. Far from it. I just play scales and chords and see what fits. No, I'm primarily a bass player and a harmonica player.
I played bass in a band, a friend's band actually. We wanted to actually, it was so much fun. I was supposed to play lead guitar, and then there was all this tension because one of my friends was much better than me, so he ended up playing, and I ended up playing the bass. And I thought, God, bass is actually really expressive, and it's really creative,
Yeah,
and you're kind of in the
yeah.
background as well,
I
which
love
which
bass.
suited me. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? And what
Yeah,
what
yeah,
what about?
and also it's easier as well. But the thing is, the thing about bass that is a lot harder to deal with than say the lead guitar is with bass you have to be precise. It's a bass is half melodic. I mean, guitar is obviously more a melodic instrument, but a bass, if you people will hear it more when you play the wrong note or you play the wrong chord. I mean, guitar, if you accidentally play a 1 4 5 instead of the root third and fifth, the ear won't really distinguish it. But if you're playing a root third and fifth on a bass, but instead you play the root fourth and fifth
Mm,
instead, people will notice that. It will be a sort of not a false relation, but a dissonance, and it's oh, that doesn't sound right. So bass is simpler in the sense of you don't have to play as much, but you have to get it right even more. I would say, in my experience, as playing bass.
okay, you sound like you know what you're talking about, and I just play by ear, so I can't read music or anything.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes some of the best bassists or the best musicians just learn by ear. I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with perfect pitch, and I wouldn't say my pitch is the best. But I kind of do both. I can read music. So, for example, I used to practice Bach canons. So I'd open up some Bach classical music and
Mm,
like quite a few good bass players. They often uh, musically quote Stravinsky, and I was reading some Stravinsky stuff and playing it, and I think, you know what? Actually, there are some pretty good licks in this, even on bass.
okay. And Zach, what about you? What's your musical background? What do you?
Well, when I
Um,
was at the ripe age of, I don't even know, I was probably 7 or 8. My grandmother got a piano,
okay.
and my older sister showed interest for a little bit, and then I just kind of sat in the back and watched what she was doing, and then just learned to like pluck my way through keys. And then as time went on, I actually like learned to play piano, and then sixth grade, I started playing trumpet and clarinet, and then
Wow.
There's a
eighth
pattern. There's a
grade,
pattern here, Zach, isn't there?
eighth grade, I learned the baritone and percussion.
Wow. Did you? I don't suppose you learnt the oboe, did you? I always wanted to learn the
I
oboe.
did not. I actually found that instrument like hauntingly fascinating, and
Yeah, well, it's
they're just
beautiful,
so
isn't it?
expensive.
Did you ever learn the French horn, Zach?
I did,
That
yeah,
would have
I
suited.
did.
Good God.
Really?
What didn't you learn?
Um, well, I had I was fortunate enough that I mean, we had to buy the instruments, but I was fortunate enough that our high school had a music program, like a really good music program,
Hmm.
and I did marching band for a year or 2 years. I can't remember now. For a
Zach,
little
did
bit,
you
yeah.
ever have any time where you just relaxed, you didn't do anything?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Did you ever do that?
Honestly, if I look back that far, no, I don't think so. Like I was that kid in school. Like I was constantly busy. I always found time to hang out with people. Um,
That's the complete opposite of me. I mean, most of the time I spent my time doing nothing because I just wanted to relax.
yeah, I mean
Yeah,
in
yeah,
high
yeah.
school I was doing art. I started getting interested in graphic design. So I was doing a lot of personal graphic design projects and projects for courses. And geez, yeah, wow, that seems like so long ago now. But
Did,
yeah, I was in bands. I played in bands. I played some school sports.
did you do anything? Did you manage to do nothing over the Christmas period? Did you actually switch off?
I I didn't
I
go in
would
my
say
office.
no.
I didn't go in my
Oh,
office
you
for 2 weeks.
locked it, didn't you?
It was like it. Yeah, I didn't go in my office for 2 weeks, and then
Okay.
How long for didn't you go in your office? What'd you say? 2 weeks?
yeah,
I know that's hard.
Really? I thought 2 days is more realistic for you, Zach.
yep, nope. I made a promise I wouldn't go in my office because I would never come out. Yeah, so
So,
Wow.
so do either of you record music? I mean, do you have a studio? Some studio
I
software, or
I have a couple songs on my Instagram, I think, and then I have a SoundCloud. I can't remember even the name I used to make my SoundCloud.
is that is
I
that?
used
Sorry,
I
go on.
recorded some things on YouTube. I mean, I've played in a proper studio, and honestly, the difference is night and day. I mean, I have a pretty good amp. I have a oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's not a Hartka. I can't remember, but anyway, it's pretty old actually. But
Mm.
no, I just pretty much use my laptop and then I polish it up in Audacity.
Oh
I
yeah,
like Audacity because
yeah.
it's just raw.
Mm.
But the thing is, I play a fretless Aria bass, and it's from 1980. It's a left-handed, and it's a fretless. So
Oh,
it's I don't know. I can't say for sure. It's one of a kind, but there can't be that many in existence. And you mentioned earlier, about the rhythm or the feeling of it. And I play fretted, but I just love playing fretless because I like that upright sound. And sometimes, actually, with just to digress a little bit, I sometimes, depending on the song, sometimes I'll tune it down one whole step. So instead of EADG, I play DGCF, especially for one song, "Lady in Red," which I think I know it might be a corny song, but the bass line is sublime.
ah,
But I'm looking forward actually to taking it into a proper studio because then I know that it will sound even more divine. And hopefully, at some point, once I've got a job, I'll be getting a 80s Boss Octave uh, two pedal, like the old ones, like the analog ones. And then that'll give me so much more creativity in the kind of bass lines I can compose.
you I
Yeah.
have you heard of a band called the Go Betweens?
Yes,
Because
actually, funnily enough, I have.
they
I have heard of them.
the bass lines in their songs are just amazing. Really creative, and not just the dun 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 dun. Really really all over the place. And I came across a live recording of Duran Duran the other day. I wasn't particularly a fan of Duran Duran. I didn't really take them that
Oh,
seriously. But
oh,
but
I was a big fan of
they
them. The
musically
bass
they
line on Rio.
the bass line on what's it? They're probably the best
Is it
the
Save a
best.
Prayer? I've played a few of their bass lines.
Okay, yeah, they're really. John Taylor was actually a pretty good bass player. I didn't realise how good he was.
Oh, he
Um,
he was. If you listen to the bass in Rio, it sounds so. In fact, actually, the reason I got into bass, originally I was playing bass about 12, 13 years ago, and I didn't really take it seriously. But the reason I got into bass was because of that bass line, Rio. It's so awesome, and to this day, yeah, I can play it, but it's pretty difficult adding in all the ghost notes.
yeah, okay, yeah, I know what song was. It was oh, I've just got out of my mind again. I can't believe that. Never mind. Um, yeah,
Hungry
and
like
Andy.
hungry like the wolf,
Yeah, no,
maybe,
no,
or uh, Planet Earth.
no. Oh God, it's on the tip of my tongue. Hang on a sec. Um, it's gone. It's gone. Sorry, guys.
That That's okay. I think perhaps some of our audience won't even have heard of Duran Duran, or if they have, they probably wouldn't know that
No.
they were a band. But if we actually look at the, I mean, we're talking about music, but if we look at music in the same way that we, for example, approach UX design, there's still a user research. I mean, composing those bass lines in any bass line or any guitar lick or anything, you still have to gauge what the audience likes. You sort of do research based on, like, oh, a lot of the bands were influenced by Motown. Motown was obviously popular and still is. I'm a big fan of the Motown bunch. And, it's just that process, isn't it, of finding what works and delivering a product.
Well, on that note, could we go back to the R1, the Rabbit R1? Because I wondered about the the product video, and I just wondered what was going, what they were thinking when they were researching and trying to decide whether there was a need for this thing. I just wondered if you guys had any thoughts about that.
I wonder the same, but then I look at what they did to design this product, and they were on to something good at the beginning. I think they knew that. I think they weren't 100%, but I think they knew in their head, like, okay, this was supposed to be a productivity thing. The phone. They're not trying to replace a phone. They're just trying to give people that don't want the distraction by opening their phone, because I'm guilty of that. I'll open my phone to change something in one of my calendars, and I end up, after doing that, lost in either another program, like my Figma Mobile, or any one of my other apps, and I just get distracted. Even though I went there to do something productive, I end up distracted. And it was like their way of fixing it while giving you something useful. Like, I'm so busy, I wish I had a little box I could talk to all day and be like, "Hey, do this. I need this done. Hey, schedule this appointment because I can't do it right now." And
Okay.
take the paper I wrote in my Word program and edit it for me so that I can send in that user research.
Do you think is there any sort of part of you that thinks, if this sort of frees you up, frees up a bit more time for you, do you think you'll just end up sort of filling up that time with something else? So do you know what I mean?
I already thought this out. Yeah, no, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, and anyone else as well.
I think within a few minutes of me really getting a look at this product, I thought that exact thing. I'm like, wow, that would free up so much time. Maybe I would do more stuff.
Yeah, there's only so much time, isn't there?
See, for me, conversely, to what Zach was saying, a product like this would do absolutely nothing for me. I mean, even if I was doing full-time work and doing my hobbies, I think this probably ties into the fact I don't have social media. I'm very much away from social media, obviously. And even when I'm really busy, when I'm working full time, doing my hobbies, I still find time in the day. So for me, personally, the Rabbit R1 AI assistant wouldn't do anything for me. I mean, I've got no problem with having to take a little longer doing something manually, or having to do something in a unorthodox way to get the same result as someone who probably does use,
Oh, I
or is
have
dependent
no
on AI.
qualms with doing it manually. My problem is if I don't have to do it, I have more time. So it's
Yeah. Well, it's like when macros came out in the 90s, right? When people were starting to use macros in the mid to late 90s, and for simple things in Word, or something like that. That was to do mundane tasks. And I think obviously Rabbit R1 is taken all of these concepts way further. I mean, I don't want to sound like a
the fact that I can tell it what to do with one of my calendars that is not built into Siri, and may not even be part of the iOS. Like, it may be something I have on my computer, or it might be a calendar I use online. But as long as it can read the user interface, I can give it any command I want. Like, hey, book me 2 airplane tickets on this date at this time, and I want return tickets on this date at this time, and I need hotel rooms for that time that I'm there. Also, send an email about those times to the rest of my team. That
Yeah.
thing will take all that I just spit out of my mouth, analyze it, and do it. Like, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
on a run. I just had all that done while I'm on my run. I'm at home. I get an email. My tickets are booked. Emails are sent. And now I can take a shower and get back to work.
So
Yeah.
so you're on the
Well, the thing is,
you're on the waiting
no.
list
Oh,
then.
sorry, David.
That's okay, Zach. You're on the waiting list.
I am.
Why does that not surprise
I
me? I
was
bet, Zach, you're on the waiting list for products that haven't even been done in a concept stage yet.
probably, yeah, they have me on a mailing list somewhere.
Oh.
I think I was on the waiting list like within the first 12 hours.
It's actually it's quite good to hear you talk about it in context, because when I listened to the product launch, I thought, what would I use that for?
Yeah.
I like looking for things on my phone. I never use voice activated commands anyway. I don't like doing that, and I like the ritual of doing it. So to hear Zach talk about it and put it in a context is quite useful as well.
Yeah, because I think it's this product, honestly, if they market it correctly, it won't make any money, because the people that would actually use it for how it's used best are people like me and a lot of other people who are either very busy or they like, if it can save me time where I can fit more
Or
stuff into my
lazy,
day. Though that's the other
busy or
side of
lazy.
the coin though. You're going to get the
Oh yeah.
other 2 million people that buy this product because they want something that'll write emails for them. They'll never want to touch their email. That is not my case. Like, I love sending personalized emails.
Mm.
So I just need it for situations where, like, when I was running the other day, if I had that in my waist bag, I would have easily been like, all right, send an email, tell these people that it's switched this time, this time, this time, and then schedule that for me.
Do you think it'll take off?
I do, but for the wrong reason. That's what I mean. It's going to take
Yeah.
off, and
Yeah,
the people who are
I
really
I
using
I
it the
agree.
right way will benefit from it, absolutely. But all the people who are
I
getting it because they want a pocket GPT with all the information in the world at their
Yeah,
fingertips, like,
Mm.
all right, it's fine. I understand it. It's great to be able to ask your pocket, what the temperature is in Hawaii today. Super. But Siri can do that.
It's
So
it's
I never subscribe to that kind of stuff. But but it's interesting you say that, Zach, because I actually agree with you. I think a small pocket of the intended audience will use it for how it is intended. But I think a large majority, if we look at it now in general, I mean, how many people in their home have it where they just say Alexa lights on? I mean, how many people actually still use a light switch?
I won't get into the
It's
smart home with you because I'm currently developing a product to interact with that.
See, David. Zach isn't AI. If this Rabbit R1 becomes Rabbit R10 and it looks like a human, they'll call it Zach Oleski because
Zach
you-
E 2.0.
Do you think they got the
yeah.
price? Do you think it's quite cheap? I don't think it's very expensive. Do you think they kind of got the price right?
200
I
euros,
think
no subscription,
yeah,
take the
200.
SIM card. It's the best thing ever, and they're going to sell a lot of them. And if they never raise the price, they're going to keep doing good business.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, mind you though, like with any product, there'll be other companies that will be competing for it. I think
Yeah, but that's where
right now,
I think that's where not only did their technology make, sorry for not having a better way to express this, but they literally made all the phone companies shit their pants. This thing came out and they're like, there we go. I hope it's not a phone. And they found out it's one step away from being a phone, and now they're panicking.
Mhm.
Unless they're already developing
yeah,
it and we don't know
they're
about it. But
panicking.
I think Apple spent a lot of time on their goggles, and that's fine. That was the direction the market
Well, the big
predicted. Nobody predicted the
well, the
Rabbit
big players
R1.
like Apple. Yeah, well, the big players like Apple or even Microsoft, although Microsoft Surface was not the best conceived product because I worked in that department
If they
Right.
years ago.
Honestly, I really feel
But
like if
I
if Rabbit is smart, they will hold out, they won't sell out, and
Mm.
they'll just keep developing that product to just do what you said it's going to do and just keep making it better. just don't add.
I
Don't
wonder if they even have the patent on it though, because obviously AI isn't patented. The way a product is designed based on AI,
actually because
you know,
it's
kind of.
a learned system and it's code. I think you can actually patent the systems. Like you can hire companies that write their own learned language, and the only reason I know that is because I'm in contact with one. And
Yeah,
they,
that's like music though. For example, if you take
yeah,
a
you're gonna
song
have the
that's
same
out,
base code. Obviously, there's gonna be similarities, but like the Rabbit
yeah,
R1 is the one of a kind
well, yeah,
learned action model. Like this
well,
thing
what I wanted
does it
to say
now.
actually about that, what I want to say about that is, if you take a song that's outside of copyright, that's in the public domain,
Yeah,
you know,
me
like
too.
with AI, you can take the base, you can take the open source code, but for that particular composition, the composition is copyright, but the actual core isn't. It's only the copyright. So even if Rabbit have a patent on the way they've designed this AI, some of the big players will easily be able to just think, you know what, we can develop it in the same way. You know, we just follow the same principle, and the principle is never copyrighted. It's no one owns it, just like you can't steal an idea. But
This is gonna sound
I,
like a bad Epstein joke, but look at Adobe and Figma.
Yeah.
Apple could
yeah,
try to take over or try to put them out of business, but I think they've brought an original idea, and if they do it right, they will either be prompted to be bought out, and they might try to take a deal. But I think
What
at some
what
point it's going to belong to everybody anyway. So,
what happened with
well, I think people will just wait to see what the impact is on this. I mean, no, sorry, David. You know, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to say that we do have to start thinking about wrapping this up.
well,
To be
finish
honest.
your question because I think you were going to ask what happened with Adobe and Figma.
Yeah, was it something to do with the anti-competition laws in Europe or something?
Yeah, it was
Was it?
the U.S. has anti-competition laws as well. I don't think they're as strict. I'm not really sure. I'm not
Oh,
familiar exactly with that, but I know the EU went ahead and they reviewed the deal and decided that if they took Figma, they take the biggest competitor to them because
yeah.
Figma basically took one of their products off the market, and so it was a buyout the competition situation,
Hmm.
and there was no
Yeah, it was
similar.
the
I
European
mean, there are
Commission.
similar
It was the
programs, but
European
if
Commission.
right, and so there are similar programs, but if Adobe acquired Figma, it like destroys any chance of competing. It's a monopoly at that point. Like
Yeah.
you will own the market because Adobe owns the vector image editing software, the photo image editing software. They own PDF editing software,
Yep.
and it all
Hmm.
has AI. And it's
Hmm. Yeah.
I was happy. I celebrated. I
Adobe
like
brought
Adobe.
out
I like Adobe
Adobe
products.
brought
I
out
do.
everything.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love Adobe products, but I was really
Hmm.
scared that when they took over Figma, the product I really enjoyed was going to die. Like I thought it would be over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's amazing Figma. I love Figma.
because you know what, the money probably sounded nice to some of the people that it was
What was
going
it,
in their
20
pocket
billion or
anyway.
something stupid,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, but you know what? Sure, that payday sounds great, but at the same time, if you really respect your product, like you'll try to protect it somehow.
it? Hmm.
And sure, it sucks to not
Yeah.
take that money, but you look at the long run. You're making more. You're making advances with a tool, a design tool. You're making advances that the biggest company couldn't keep up with. So if you just keep doing what you're doing, you will be fine, and you'll keep growing. And I think it was the best for
Yeah.
Figma,
Well,
honestly.
yeah. Well, the thing is, it's just to round this up. Actually, I just wanted to say something, and that is, I I'm someone who very much believes in, you know, buying local or supporting small businesses. And you know, again, music. I reference music. For example, I couldn't ever own a Fender, not the modern ones, because they're so ubiquitous and widespread that I
Hmm.
feel that when companies get bigger, they tend to have a thing of, hey, you know what, we've more or less got the monopoly, people know our products, we don't have to try anymore. And I think if something, and don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Adobe, you know, I've been using their products for almost just about 20 years. And They've brought some great stuff out. Photoshop, and I've been using that for 20 years. I have used Illustrator. I've used Adobe After Effects. But I think it's important to have these independent or smaller companies because I feel there's more variety. I feel that I have more of a choice in what I use. I mean, I used to use CorelDRAW, PaintShop Pro besides Photoshop, and I think if Adobe took over Figma, they would make Figma go they would just s- apply the Adobe approach of, hey, this is what we think it should be. And I think there would be less. I think there would be more restrictions on how open source it is, developing plugins,
Oh
using
yeah,
plugins. I
that
think
would
there would,
disappear.
yeah, that would be a real hindrance. Whereas now it's a plugin, as long as it's compatible and it's made by a reputable person or company, you can use it. You've got that freedom. And I think then in design, it is important to preserve that freedom rather than have one company that has a monopoly and they churn out products that are actually not offering a good user experience, to quote the terminology. I mean, David, before we wrap up next couple of minutes, do you have any closing thoughts on that at all?
Well, on Adobe and Figma
Well, not just Adobe and yeah, Adobe
In
and Figma, but
general.
also
in
just
general.
in general, big companies. Yeah,
Well, I kind of agree with both of you about that. I mean, I love Figma, and I love it. Kind of makes me think of actually PCs and Macs. I mean, I love PCs because you can. This is probably actually a bit of a spurious comparison, but I like the fact with PCs you can kind of add things to them and code in
yeah,
them and change things, and you can't do that with a closed system like a Mac. And I feel like Figma is like that. It's really innovative, and you kind of think, I wonder if there's a plugin for doing that, and there usually is. And it just feels like such a,
yeah.
I don't know, lovely program. So yeah, those are my thoughts about
It's
that.
like Android. It's like Android and the iPhone. Android, for me personally, I can do a lot more with it
Yeah, I feel
than
the
I
same
would
way. I mean,
if
I
I had
think
an iPhone.
they look lovely, and Macs look lovely as well, and they're intuitive, but they're not. You can't kind of mess around with them and
They're just a
change them. And
companion. That's all they are, a little companion that
Yeah,
follows you around.
I th- I think what I've noticed, just to finish this off, is I think Macs and iPhones are initially safer, more secure out of the box, so to speak. But I think if you don't need to know as much technical knowledge to be safer with a Mac or an iPhone, but if you do have technical knowledge, I mean, I was whether it be games or in previous um, types of software, I have done debugging. I've known developers. I've been in the testing side, and yeah, I'm by no means an expert. I'm not a developer or anything like that, but I would say I have a bit more of an idea than the general population just because of what I've been exposed to. And for me, I can customize Android in a way where it's pretty safe, to be honest. But yeah, I just so yeah, because we're pretty much coming to the close now, David. Obviously, we would love to have you on as a guest in the future, especially after with the talk of Rabbit R1. I
yeah,
think it would be very interesting to
Come back in
even make
April.
another episode with you as a guest. We just need to see what the trends are now and what other competitors may do. But
Yeah,
no, David.
come back in April.
Once,
We'll do like a on air
okay.
test of it when I get it
yeah,
in the mail.
we'll do an on-air test of it. Yeah, and I'll still be sort of putting a block against it. But yeah, David, thank you so
Thanks.
much
I'm
for
gonna tell it to
joining us.
publish our show for us. That's what I'm gonna have it do. For that
Uh,
episode will be published by the Rabbit R one.
Thanks,
yeah, and then
guys.
our voices will be replaced, no doubt.
You'll sound
Um,
like Tupac. I'll sound like Biggie. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
yeah, I'd rather sound like Bugs Bunny, to be honest. If it can do that, then you've converted me. Um,
Marvin the Martian.
but yeah, yeah,
Some,
Marvin. Oh, yeah, Marvin the Martian. He's my favorite.
There you
But yeah,
go.
David, thanks so much again for joining us. And again, as we wanted to broach this subject with you of the Rabbit R1. But yeah, again, it's such a pleasure for us to have you here. Again, thank you for taking the time out, and thank you for sharing your experiences as well. I'm sure it will resonate with our listeners out there. So yeah, we can't really say anything more than
No,
just
thanks,
our
thanks.
profound thanks,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you to you as well. It was good fun, and I really enjoyed it. And it's like I said at the beginning, it's lovely to feel that you're part of something as well. So thanks.
It's always nice talking to you.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, you
super.
too. Yeah, you
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Okay, everyone. So no doubt you'll enjoy this week's episode. And if you haven't heard of the Rabbit R1 yet, then you will have by now. We will be back next week. We will also probably be having a couple of episodes in the week. So that'll be a nice treat for you because we also have other special guests. But thank you very much as always. Please contact us. You can contact us at the framexframe.uxpod@gmail.com email. And of course, please share this podcast, even with people who you might think don't really have an idea about design in the sense of an enthusiasm, but they may well do. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you or hear you on the next episode. Good night, everyone. Thank you.